Good morning. It's Sunday, May 8th. A lovely, relatively brisk morning here in the greater Sacramento area. The air is heavy with the smell of wood smoke, so I think something somewhere is on fire. It's pretty common though. In the valley, the smoke and things like that get trapped, so a fire in one part of the fairly large Sacramento Valley can definitely change the smell for the larger area of the Sacramento Valley. Some things to talk about today. Number one, there's a legal researcher who is quite assured of several things about me, because this person's a legal researcher after all. Did I misstate something? Apparently, I didn't read all the blocks of text, but apparently I misstated that the legislature and the governor or president can pass legislation to, apparently I said, overturn a ruling. Well, my intention wasn't that it would overturn the ruling. My intention would be that it would overrule the result of that ruling. If you change the statute upon which a ruling is based, then that ruling is no longer stare decisis. It's no longer controlling because the underlying statute has changed. So, thank you, legal researcher, for nitpicking. I think everybody understood the point. When I am doing these particular things, I am giving you kind of a generalist understanding. I'm not a law professor, so you're not going to get a law professor's analysis. And if you've ever gone to law school, you'll understand why I'm not giving you a law professor's analysis. Because we would be, instead of having a 45-minute video on personal jurisdiction, there would be like a week or two. No, I think it was longer than that. It felt like forever going over personal jurisdiction just for civil cases, just the federal rules of civil procedure. So no, you're not going to get everything out of my videos. My videos are not intended for that. My videos are intended for auditors, not lawyers. My videos are intended for the here's where I offend everybody. My videos are intended for the unwashed masses who are going out there and not understanding the basics of the First Amendment that they claim to be protecting, that they claim to be defending, that they claim that the police don't understand. If you don't understand it, the basics of it, then you can't know if you're actually defending it, if you're actually on solid ground with your rights. So with that understanding of my intention, understanding that I am not writing memoranda of law on specific issues, understanding that I am not creating a web series that's going to allow somebody to pass their first year federal civil procedure class in law school. Understanding that, maybe you can pull your head out of your ass far enough to realize that I'm not going to give you a perfect analysis. I'm walking my goddamn dogs right now, not in front of a law book. I could open up my bar study book and read that to you. I'm sure you would find that to be terribly fun and just as entertaining as me walking my dogs. There's also this legal researcher apparently knows lawyers so well that he or she is certain that a lawyer would not have time to create web videos. Apparently this legal researcher hasn't met Leonard French. the copyright attorney, your favorite copyright attorney, if I remember correctly, who streams on Twitch, who makes YouTube videos. Oh my God. Apparently this legal researcher hasn't met Lesser, YouTuber Law. So Leo Lesser or something like that? Leor Lesser? Leor Lesser. I always get that mixed up. Apparently this legal researcher hasn't met Leor Lesser, who also makes videos on YouTube. And these guys have been practicing law a lot longer than I have. They have more established careers than I do. And yet they still find time to make YouTube videos. Now, as far as my office is concerned, the boss, the guy with 46 years of experience, he comes in at 7, he goes home at 3. Not all of his day is spent doing law. A lot of his day is spent doing bills and figuring out billing and things like that. Because he is the owner. He's the guy who has to pay those bills and has to pay us, his associates. There's 2 other associates who work in my particular law office. They both work like a half a day at most every day. That's not billable hours. That's actually being in the office hours. I work, I mean, on a good day, I'll be there like 10 hours. On a bad day, I'll be there, and by bad, I mean slow. On a like this last week, the boss was out of town. I had to do some research on unjust enrichment as it would regard to very specific transaction that was taking place involving the FDIC and some other groups, figuring out how the interplay of state and federal law would work. I spent about 5 or 6 hours to come to to find the answers that I needed. The rest of my week, I would show up for work. Obviously, I didn't show up on the 4th, but I would show up for work, return a couple of client calls, and done. I would literally be in there an hour or less. So, yeah, and even on a normal week, I'm normally there. I get up at 4:15, I walk the dogs, I do the morning ramble while I'm doing that. I start getting ready for work at about 7. That gives me time to take the dogs for their final walk. And it gets me to work at around between 8 and 8:30. So I'm up for about 4 hours before I go to work. And then typically I'll be done. I'll be bouncing out that door at around 4 or 5. I mean, there have been days where I've been there till 6 or 7 in the evening. Those are never fun. But I bounce out at normally like 4, maybe get home at 5, have dinner. I don't go to bed until like 10:30. So that gives me like another 4 hours to make videos and to interact. So I don't know where people are getting this idea that lawyers have no time. I know lawyers who work for the state. They have quite a bit of time. They do their 8 to 5-ish every day, and then they bounce. You got to remember, courts close at 5. So there's not a whole lot to do in the world of law after 5, unless you're writing something. The law library, except on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, it closes at 5. So unless you're there on a Tuesday or a Thursday when it's open till 8, then basically everything shuts down at 5. So I don't know. It just amazes me that all these people know what lawyers do and how much time lawyers do or don't have when they have absolutely no freaking idea. I also find that it's typically not the lawyers who are having an actual issue with what I'm doing. I mean, I have been corrected a few times by a lawyer. Like with the, when I was reading the complaint, I didn't know that Texas is different than other states where they don't have that attorney block at the top left corner. It's a Texas thing. I didn't know that. So he corrected me on it, and that's great. I'm not above reproach, definitely. But by the same token, you're not going to get the squirrel, dude, relax. By the same token, I am not making these videos like I would make a memorandum of law. And yes, I have submitted memorandums and motions and trial briefs and proposed statements of decision. And yes, I have done them. I've written responses to other attorneys' motions and memoranda and trial briefs and things like that. And I do pretty damn good at it. I am good at my job. That's what the guy who's been practicing for 46 years tells me. And so I'm going to have to take him at his word. Let's see. Antwon Rose. I'm probably saying that wrong. Young man shot in the back, Pittsburgh. What are the details we're not given? Does everybody know the details we're not given? There was a drive-by shooting. Another young black man was shot in the stomach. I believe he's expected to do fine. Police get a call about this drive-by shooting. Apparently the young black man who was shot in the stomach, Pittsburgh apparently has some real problems, was carrying and shot back. And there is a bullet hole in the car that did the drive-by shooting. So the police are now looking for a car. They have the make, model, color, and a bullet hole description. Police find this car. There are two young black men inside of it. They pull this car over. One of the young black men takes off running. Now, let's look at it from the police's perspective. The police know that there are armed young black men in a car that has a bullet hole, and they know that these armed young black men have engaged in felonious activity, specifically, I'm going to guess attempted homicide, but if nothing else, some sort of aggravated assault in some way, shape, or form. Legal researcher, go legal research and figure it out, since you apparently have time to write like 3-page long essays on my videos multiple times a day. So were the police justified in shooting him? I think technically they were. Is it good or awesome or amazing when the police shoot somebody? No. Doesn't matter if they shoot him in the back or in the front, it's never awesome. What is the legal standard? Well, the Fourth Amendment always boils down to a reasonableness analysis, and the Supreme Court has tackled this in the past. I apologize if you're getting wind noise. There's nothing much I could do. There's wind. The Supreme Court has tackled this in the past, and they've determined that it is not a violation of the Fourth Amendment if the police shoot a fleeing, dangerous felony suspect in the back. The analysis is basically if they let him go, he would probably do more harm than if they actually shot him. So does that mean that they can't be sued over it? They could probably, anybody can be sued at any time for any reason. Whether or not it stands, whether or not they pierce the qualified immunity is a completely different story. And also, I have not said anything about Philadelphia's Constitution or Philadelphia statutes, which may have made what the police did illegal or unlawful according to Philadelphia's laws. So, I always find it interesting, though, the bits that people leave out. It's the bits that people leave out that always draw a lawyer's attention, because I want to know those bits. When I have somebody in that initial client consultation where they come in and they want to tell me their woes and how they were wronged, you know, things don't just happen in a vacuum. People are rarely, and I use that term hashtag not all wise, people are rarely just assholes right out of the gate. Are there instances where cops have just shot people in the back? Yeah, there was the guy in, he was just recently convicted. He was in the park. He shot the black guy who was running away. Oh God, I forget it. There was the guy who was, the black guy who was the caretaker of the autistic kid. He was shot as he was laying on his back with his hands up. I think that was probably a mistake, like a cop with, you know, his finger resting on the trigger, just being a firearms idiot. Now, am I saying that he shouldn't be held culpable? Absolutely, he should be held culpable, because stupid isn't a defense. But I don't think there was actual malice involved in that shooting. I think the cops were being stupid, but then there was the Oscar, what's his name, in the BART station. Sitting down, cop walked up, asked him for something, and then pop, shot him. I mean, there are times when the cops are just wrong, and we need to focus on that. But there are then times like this Antwon kid, apparently, the Rose. I'm probably horribly mispronouncing his name, because again, I'm going from memory while I'm walking my dogs. Relax. You know, the picture they showed was of him as a 15-year-old. He was 17. He was in a gang. He was apparently writing gang lyrics. Atheism is unstoppable. Ism is unstoppable. He did a video on it. I know others have done videos on it. I saw one in my recommended list for Donut Eater, I think, or Mike the Cop or something like that, talking about it. I've been looking for it on police activity. I like to see the unedited body cam footage. Not that it's always dispositive, but sometimes you can get a pretty good idea of what's going on. So, yeah, there's that. I thought there was something else I wanted to talk about too. Let's see. Mental checklist. Oh yeah, okay. When I was talking about the Florida carry statute, oh God, we're all wrapped up. When I was talking about the Florida carry statute, at the request of that person on Discord, I wasn't trying to say that the statute hadn't been determined, hadn't been defined. That the terms like going to and from an expedition hadn't been defined. I think I stated that it may have. I, again, don't have access to, especially not on a Saturday, I don't have access to a law library, and it wasn't pertinent to the actual question, because the question was, you know, why do cops basically need qualified immunity, and what is it about statutes that should give a cop qualified immunity? I mean, it says it plainly on its face that they can go to and from an expedition, fishing expedition, that they could have it while they're fishing, and so, you know, it should just be apparent. And then my examples were where it's not apparent, and there's a reason that I use the examples I did, and it's because those are the kind of things that you'll actually see. Those are the kind of things that actually make it to courts of appeals. The ridiculous ones, the ones that nobody saw coming. Nobody expected the Spanish Inquisition, and nobody expected Billy Bob to travel all the way from the swamplands of Floribama on foot with his arsenal down to the Florida Keys to go fishing, taking a month to do it, while he walked and hitchhiked his way down the Florida coast. But that's the very thing that you're going to end up seeing in an appeals case. It's the holy crap, nobody expected this, we've got to deal with it. It's an unresolved point of law. The 30.06 that they're looking at in Texas, and the novel way that the the district attorney in Leon Valley is looking to apply it to Mr. Freeman and Bow. That is, I mean, theoretically possible to get appealed, because it hasn't been tested before, or at least according to Mr. Prickett, who, like I said, is a qualified, practicing, and experienced attorney, and I have no reason to doubt him on it, so I'm just going to go ahead and roll with that. So yeah, I think that was it. Let me think for a minute. If an attorney does give you advice, if you go to an attorney seeking advice and an attorney gives you advice, I don't know why everybody wants to argue with the attorney at that point. Let's say, for example, that somebody who lives in Idaho does you wrong. Let's go back to the OG Ohio Guardian example. Let's say I defame him from California. He wants to sue me in Ohio because that's convenient for him. That's convenient for his attorney. He wants it to be convenient for him. Now, the whole point of like personal jurisdiction and venue and stuff like that is to make it convenient for justice. But given a choice between convenient for you or convenient for your opponent, I strongly recommend you choose convenient for you every time. And if your lawyer says, if you talk to a lawyer and your lawyer says, no, you should be able to sue him in Ohio. Again, I don't believe that I will be subject to personal jurisdiction in Ohio. I'm merely using this as an example. But if your lawyer says, no, you should sue them in Ohio, and there is a very good reason for it, and we can make it happen, it will be good, it will stick, it will be convenient for you, then do it. Don't argue. For the love of God, don't argue. I don't know why people are just so determined to make things hard on themselves when they don't have to. Listen to your attorneys, kids. That's what we get paid the big bucks for. And it's attorneys who become or who become judges. Attorneys are lawyers. It's attorneys who become judges, not sovereign citizens. So it's attorneys who will end up judging what the law is or isn't. So you may want to believe an attorney when he tells you what he's talking about. You doing good? Come on. Gotta pee. All right, come on. Be a good boy. Good boy. Come on. Be a good boy. Be a good boy. Good boy. See, he's not terrible. Yeah. So sovereign citizens have a losing streak that I believe is 0 and a lot. A lawyer at least has a 50-50 shot of being right in any given court case. So that's it. That's your morning ramble. We'll see if the audio turned out terrible on this one or not. Thanks for watching. Have a great Sunday. Oh, and legal researcher, I expect your 3-page analysis on the Antwon Rose shooting and where I got it wrong. I'll expect that by 5 o'clock this afternoon Pacific time. Thanks.